Welcome to the Brie Pod. I'm here with me, Brie. So, the last time we spoke, I was actually traveling to Oregon without my son for the very first time. And now, this time, I've actually taken a trip with my son and my husband. And I wanted to share about it because there's a lot of things that happened, a lot of pros and cons about the trip, and things that I would recommend um, just based off of my own opinion. Everything that I'm about to say is purely opinion based. And I say this just so I don't get legal action against me. I don't know if there would be, but after the work I am in, I'm just going to say fully opinion based. But anyway, let's start with it. So, a month ago or so, we planned a trip, of course, to New York, and we ended up going, when did we go? The beginning of April or around Easter time. So, our plan originally was to get on the flight, go to Chicago, go from Chicago to New York after like an hour layover. The thing is, I think there was bad weather or something going on because our flight ended up getting canceled that first time. So, we had to like hurry up, get ourselves together and find another flight. We had to get help from a third party because the way that we have our flights booked is through a third party sometimes. So, anyway, we get that all situated and they decide we're gonna go from Arizona to DC, from DC to New York. So we get to DC and I guess there was again some wild weather. So they ended up having us, we get on the plane. Well, first off, it took a little bit. I think we got delayed a little bit. Then we get on the plane and we end up getting delayed on the plane where we're kind of parked on the side. And then finally, they were like, once we got to DCA, or they're like, we're gonna go to DCA now. So they traveled around through Texas to get away from the weather. We get to DC, and our next flight was supposed to be like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and once we got there, it was way too late. No, our flight was gonna be 6, but we got there at 7 or 8 or something like that. Well, our flight was canceled. Well, I shouldn't say canceled, it was delayed, but then canceled. So we end up missing the flight we're supposed to be on. And they're like, okay, well, we have another flight you guys can take, which is to New York at 10 p.m. At this point, we had been up since 4 a.m. And I was like, no, I don't want to fly anymore. If there's anything that we need to do, we will do it. We'll do it tomorrow. Like, we have our son, and he had done very well. It's not to say that he didn't. The whole ride, back and forth, Jeremy and I played with him. We fed him. I did the breastfeeding on takeoff and landing. So he really had a good time. He slept. He played with his toys and ate puffs, like all the good things. So he was really doing very well. However, it was just a long day at that point. I don't want to gauge the hours wrong, but the amount of hours that we had been on a flight was insane. So, because of that, I decided that it would be better that we just wait till the next day. So we ended up staying overnight in DC, which wasn't bad because Jeremy's family happens to be very close to DC, so we were able to visit with them and kind of like check in, see how everybody's doing. And so that was really nice, and Liam got to meet that was his first official aunt and uncle that he was able to meet outside of, at that point, he has only met our parents. So he got to meet his first aunt and uncle and cousin, so that was really awesome. And then the next day we get on the plane, we go to New York. So travel wise, my son did very well. Um, Surprisingly to me, because I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. I was kind of expecting to be the mother that is trying to hush the baby and everybody's just staring at me and freaking out, but that's not what happened, which was nice. Um, the main concern and issue is more so with the flight than my actual time with my son. And there are things that I would probably do differently. Like next time, I found I don't know if it was like TikTok or what, but I found this cool toy that you can suction cup to the window. I definitely want to get that. I think it looks fun and could be very exciting for him. Now, let's get to the flight itself. American Airlines has left a bad taste in my mouth, and before, I must say, I'm not sure if they were like my favorite anyway, but they've become definitely my not favorite this time. And I know this is all first world problems. However, when you're thinking of like an experience on the flight, especially for my son's first time, I wanted it to be a good experience for all. Because at the end of the day, they have that thing where your child has to be in your lap unless you pay for another seat, or if you're lucky and the person that's in your row doesn't show up kind of deal. So we didn't have that happen, but what I what I would have liked is different seats, I think, because the first time around, because we switched to DC unwillingly, really, if you think about it, because the first flight was actually supposed to go to Chicago, they got us on the flight, but they didn't have seats for us. So when we got there, we're like, can you put us together? And they did, but they put us in the very back, like at the very, very back. I could high five my um, flight attendant, so I didn't, but I could. And it was very close to the bathroom, which in some ways it was kind of nice to be close to the bathroom, but at the same time, that's not my favorite place to be on an airplane. So there was that. And then the other thing that I didn't really like was you can't put your seat back when you're in the way back, obviously, because you're against the the wall deal there. So, well, the bathroom wall. So, yeah. So couple things that I learned is that these are the seats you don't want to have if you're looking for comfort with a infant. Number one, never get the seats in the way back. Obviously, that's a very obvious answer. However, we didn't get a choice necessarily. We just asked if we could be together. So the choice was to have to sit in the way back. So then the next flight we ended up on, we were behind, or no, we were in front of the exit seats. That's another place to not go to either because the exit seats that are behind you, you're not allowed to recline. So you do not, so far you don't want the back row of the plane. You don't want any seats that are ahead of exit rows because you can't recline. You can't recline the back time. And you don't want a seat that's has the wall of the bathroom, which that's not just in the back. There's like a middle one too sometimes in the middle of the flight. So that's what I learned so far. Every single seat we had coming to New York and back from New York was literally either in front of an exit, in the way, way back, or in the middle with the bathroom behind us. And you could not recline your seat, which is horrible when you are in the plane for 5 hours and you're holding your baby. So overall, as far as my son goes, he did amazing. He was really good. He played, he went back and forth between my husband and I. However, when it came to actually like the seating, oh my goodness, my body hurt. And I did share that pain with my husband, but it's still, ugh, it was painful. But that's not why I don't like American Airlines. Because they can't, in some ways, they can't, be held responsible, especially with all the delays that we went through on the way up and out. There's a lot of weather issues that had gone down. There was just a lot of things that had happened that really made it very difficult um, for, things to work out like that. So I do understand that the seating in that sense they couldn't take care of. However, I've also been on Delta and I love Delta and I am very biased. I am very opinionated about it because for all the years that my husband and I have been traveling, I have always loved the Delta experience. Um, it's just been, I don't know, it's just been good, a good experience. But when it came to the experience with American Airlines, I was let down very much, and I was let down when I noticed that they're not necessarily family oriented. They are, but they aren't. So I didn't learn this rule until after we did after we went on the plane. One of the rules is if you're on Delta, for example, and you have a family and you've got the stroller and you have your baby, they will let you go on early with the elite diamond whatever members they are with that specific airline platinum whatever. They'll let them go first and you are allowed to go with them as a family. If you have a stroller, a baby, so on and so forth, you can be ahead so that you can kind of take your time to get yourself situated. And that was what I was banking on because I knew I was going to be breastfeeding on landing, takeoff and landing. However, American Airlines does not offer it right out like Delta does. American Airlines, as of this rule that I found online, you have to ask them, and it's not something that they necessarily offer up. It's just you have to be like, hey, can I have some time? And then they can say yes or no. It's up to them. With Delta, it is like in their whole ordeal. I don't know what to say, but like anytime you hear them talk about, getting everybody onto the plane, military, whatever, all the people there, they allow families to go first, as with babies and such. So that was a tick against American because I was like, I don't like that. The second thing was not the flights going out because I understand why they had to do what they did. It's the flights coming back to Arizona. So Jeremy and I ended up getting like we were supposed to leave on Saturday. We ended up leaving on Sunday because I don't know why we kept hitting weather issues, but we kept hitting weather issues every chance we could. So we had to stay overnight again in Albany. We ended up getting a flight again to DC to go to Arizona. Well, I do not know why this happened, but they were able to get us onto the flight, but no seats. So when I woke up that morning, I'm looking at my phone and it's saying I don't have a seat. And that freaks me out because usually these flights end up getting full. And if you don't have a seat, you're kind of screwed. So I hurry up, I get in our apps, I change our seats. And for the first flight, I couldn't get close to Jeremy, but I tried my best. Like I got us in the same row across from each other, and all we would have to do is ask the person next to one of us to swap because we weren't in the same seat. Like he was in I think a middle and I was in the at the window. So we just had him swap. So that worked out beautifully. The second flight, however, um our seats were like I was over at 25B or something, and Jeremy's all the way up at 16B, something along those lines. We're both getting middle seats, so therefore we can't trade like we did on the previous flight. And they said that we didn't have a seat. Again, which backtracking a little bit, for that flight where she was like, oh, you don't have seats, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I went onto the app and I fixed it, and then at first she was like, oh, well, sometimes we have to change it around and I got into a little thing on that because I was like, no, 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 no. I have a seat. You're not taking it from me kind of deal. So it turned out I did have my seats and we were good, but she just didn't check her system. So until I was like, whoa, that's not correct. So luckily that was taken care of. That's a side note. But so the flight that's supposed to go from DC to Arizona, that's the flight where we were way too far away from each other. So we thought, okay, we'll go up to the desk, we'll ask them about, getting us next to each other. Even if that meant we have to sit in the back or in front of the exit row, whatever it takes to get us together, because I did not want to breastfeed in the middle of two men. Now, I know you could be saying, well, why don't you just bottle feed your son? And the thing is that my son knows the difference between a bottle and a boob. That's just straight out the issue. He knows. And he will look at the bottle and he'll look at the boob and he'll be like, "Mm, yeah, no, I don't want the bottle. I want I call it on tap. I want it on tap. So let's go, girl." So, yes, could I have done a bottle? Yes, but my son wouldn't have taken it. He just, he prefers on tap. It always cracks me up when I say that. Um, so that is why. And also, it's what he knows. Like, I want it to be a good experience for him and what he knows. So, unfortunately, that is what, it's not unfortunate. It's fortunately that's what he knows. And so that's what we're going to do. But it was kind of awkward at first because I was between two guys. And I'm not saying that the men were bad about it or anything. I had a covering, it wasn't anything, any issue. It was just uncomfortable because if I were to be by myself on a flight with my son, I'd want either the end seat or the window seat. I would not want the middle. Because what I learned, and this flight was going to be a long 5-hour flight, I learned that my son wanted to like speak, not speak, but he had met so many people as we were in New York where he's getting used to being kind of passed around and seeing everybody. Where when we were next to those two guys, it kind of seemed like my son was gonna try to talk to him, not talk to him, but like want to go over to him, which he did try to do. And in some cases, that's cute and sweet that he's loving, but in the other case of being a protective mother, it was like, "Ew, I don't know if I want you to be that loving with people." I know that I'm not saying that anything would have happened in front of my eyes there, but I'm just saying like I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of awkward." And then of course the person, they're just trying to be nice. So anyway, long story short, I was in between these two guys. Jeremy was back in between two people. We were in middle seats. We had this plan where he'd come up like an hour or something later and come get the baby. At first, it was going horrible. Like with us together, it was a perfect tag team because I'd feed him, I'd play with him, then Jeremy would play with him, give him his puffs, and we'd just back and forth, and then he'd sleep. However, with the two middle guys, or being in between the two middle guys, not the middle guys, why do I keep trying to say that? The two people next to me, I can't back and forth him with these strangers, number one. And number two, I was starting to feel overwhelmed and stressed because I'm like, oh, I need Jeremy to be with me so I can just pass, and be fine. Luckily, what happened is the guy that was next to Jeremy, who was actually sitting on in an aisle row, he told Jeremy that 'cause he found out our situation. Like Jeremy got up that one time and he was like, "Hey Brie, when do you need me to come back? I'll come back and get our son." And he's like, "Maybe about an hour." And so not long after that being said to me, he comes back and he's like, "Hey, this guy next to me is willing to trade with you. Do you want to trade?" And I was like, "Yes, 100%." So, sorry if you hear my son in the background. He is just upset with himself right now. So anyway, um, the guy, here we go. So anyway, the guy, ends up swapping with me, which is really awesome. And if you're on video, he's saying hello. Anyway, so he was willing to swap with me, so we did. That worked out really well, and then the rest of the ride went really well, except we were in a seat in front of the bathroom in the middle, not in the way back, but in the middle, so we couldn't recline. So my advice would be this, is if you are going to be flying with your infant in your lap, do not get the following seats. The seats in the back, the seats that border a bathroom, the seats that are right before an exit. They do not recline, and it's a long ride, depending on how long you're on the flight. That is my advice. Mistakes that I made, not enough puffs, Maybe I'd bring like a little fan or something because it gets a little hot, even though there is the fan that comes up. I think just with breastfeeding, if you're doing breastfeeding, a little fan maybe. And even with the suggestion of bottling, I'd still go for the breastfeed, to be honest. I think that's what he's used to and what he would have, not would have, he did really well with, so there'd be no reason to try to force a bottle onto him if he's gonna follow through with that's it. For that advice, I'd stick to what I did there. Trying to think if there's anything else that I would do. Oh, I'd definitely fight. I don't know if I should say fight, but I would definitely talk to American Airlines next time about having that option to go on early. That would have really saved me a lot of headache and struggle. However, I really don't want to go on American Airlines again. I know that I have to, most likely have to go on there, but when it comes to New York, I hope to stick to Delta because Delta, they are more caring than American Airlines, and that is my own personal opinion. Just saying. Um, but anyway, so that is what travel life was like with my son. He did very well on the plane ride. Total was like 7 hours in the plane between the two flights. Um, then there was the car ride the next day, which was like a not the next day, a couple days later. That was the 3 hour ride to get up to the North Country, and then 3 hours back. So really, with all the flying and the riding and the meeting people, my son did very well. I was wicked impressed. So, and he did receive his wings, his very first wings for flying. So he did a good job there. Um, the only thing I would change probably as well is there's this toy that I found. I think I talked about it before, but there's this toy that I found online that you can suction cup to the window, and that is something I absolutely am going to get. I think it'd be best. And then I saw online too that there's this idea with a snack box, and I think I might fill that up with like little teeter stuff too. So those would be the things that I would recommend to anybody else. And what I'm gonna do next time. Um, I'm also going to make a blog post, I think, of showing the different photos and things that I'm talking about so that kind of makes sense. So definitely look out for the blog post on this. I'm not trying to be a hater on American Airlines. They just let me down. In the family sense, I just don't give them a high stars rating on that. And I think, like, I know for a lot of people, your travel all depends on your lifestyle and like what you're looking to do with traveling. But I think that they should be a bit more family oriented. Sorry, not sorry. Um, Delta does a really good job with being family oriented, and I know I keep saying that, but hands down, so far. Now, these are the only two airlines I've been on that I know about the family thing, so I don't know about anybody else, but so far, I'd say that's how I would rank them of what I know. As far as like Alaska or Frontier or Allegiant or United, JetBlue, Southwest, I have not had enough flights to know so because a lot of times we did Delta and I love Delta. And I maybe some of you haven't had a good experience with Delta, so that's why it's truly opinion based. But overall, that is my recommendation on that. And I'm not a paid affiliate. This is just me letting you know the truth. Not the truth, because it'd be my truth, but letting you know where I stand with it. So yeah, but overall with flying is concerned, I think he had a really good time. Like he saw two puppies that he got to sit across from. So he was going, ah, ah, like so excited about seeing two puppies, and their names were Dolce and Gabbana. So he had a really good flight in really all of them, and just kind of like went back and forth between Jeremy and I and playing, and we had his little otter. So a lot of good things came from it. And who, as he says. Uh, so that was how traveling went with my 7-month-old son. I would absolutely do it again in a little bit differently. And I think I'll put that in the blog post of what I would have done versus what I did do. And now I know what seats I need to request. Because before, it's not to say I didn't know the seats, but now I feel like after all that flying, I know what seats I want to be in for the comfort, for the, because you want to be able to recline with your toddler. If you're holding, well, I shouldn't say toddler because infant to toddler, you want to be able to recline so that your back is all like, you feel comfortable. When you're stuck straight, sitting up straight, it does not feel comfortable. It is appropriate and proper, but ugh, it doesn't feel good after the hours were done. I was ready to be off the plane, and so yeah. But otherwise, we had a really good trip to New York. We saw a lot of family. We missed a lot of family too, but that is also because we have so much family. But we had a good time, and we look forward to doing it again. But hopefully this time we're on Delta. Hopefully. We'll see what happens. But otherwise, that is everything I have to say. I will be, of course, having another episode coming out soon, trying to do them as often as possible, but also on my time because being a mom has changed my life in many ways. So the time that I had before, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to allocate that time, and what I can actually control to allocate the time. So, um, but I think it's been going really well as far as as far as the episodes are going. So until next time, I'll be back again, and we will be able to chat more about probably jaw surgery actually, because that information will be coming out soon. I'm gonna get more um, info on May 8th. So we'll get to find out some stuff to share. So, anyway, soon you'll see me again. So, with that, you are loved, you are worthy, you are cherished, and we, Liam and I, are proud of you. Until next time on the Brie Pod. Bye. Say bye. Bye. Yep. Say bye.